Welcome back to the ABL review for season 18 of the West. Oh, whoops! I didn't start on the the cover page here. Sorry, guys. Okay, so just a heads up. One of the battles I did pre-record, just that way I didn't have to do everything at once. I just knocked that out when it was done. So that might sound a little bit different. I'm gonna cut that in right after this. But we had some deficits in the final week here. A couple games that didn't matter and therefore ended up getting forfeited, but we still do have, and then also we had somebody drop out, which I'll talk about at the end of this. But we still did have some good matches. So first I'll cut to my match versus, who did I play? I've already forgotten. Versus Darren. And then we'll get into the rest of it. So thank you. So for this match, we've got my team, the Brooklyn Bonnettes, taking on Darren and the Detroit Dragapults. So playoff implications here. If I win, I get a bye to the playoffs in the ABL North. Darren, if he wins, there's a lot of uncertainty what could happen there, just because the rest of the West is kind of so tight. Look at the standings. This is updated. This is updated to the time I'm recording this. Because if I had lost, I'd be 4-2. So it'd be, I guess I would still potentially, or I'd be 4-3. Excuse me. I'd be 4-3. So then it still depends on what happens with Mike. He could potentially get that, but now I own that spot. If Darren had won, he then goes to 4-3. So then we have 1, 2, potentially 3, 4, 5 teams that could all be 4-3. So it would have been a mess. This clears things up a little bit in terms of the potentials, but not too much. So yeah, let's hop into this one. Very tough matchup. His team is very offensive. It's hard to set up. You don't really want to set up against it because there's a Dondozo, and then also just Iron Moth is really hard to switch into. You don't have anything dedicated for it, and nothing on my team resists both of the stabs, and that can also then manage to take a energy ball, which is something he digivolves into quite a bit. Digivolves is the word. Terrestrialize. You get the idea. My first calc that I ran was the full special defense Vaporeon. It's like, oh shit, booster energy, terrestrialize energy ball, guaranteed to hit KOs. Very strong Pokemon. But let's hop into this. We've got Dondozo against Roaring Moon right off the bat. Roaring Moon is Choice Band. I just want to be able to U-turn against pretty much anything here because I didn't see any likely Scarfers, same as the Gardevoir, and I figured I could work around that. So I U-turn here, and this took me, Darren can attest to this, forever to decide what to do because even with a crit, 27% damage is actually so much to a Dondozo. So according to my calcs, he had no defense and no HP. I'm really glad that I took the time to calc this because I would have gone into either Screamtail or Bramblegast if I hadn't calced this, so I'm really glad I took the time to do so, because here I go into Volcarona, take very little damage, and you know, I think this is a contact move, so there's a chance at a Flame Body Burn. I'm gonna double out because I don't want to take a water move into the Bramblegast here. Okay, and I catch his Dragonite there, which I thought was a little bit risky whether or not to stay in because maybe he's got a Terra Flying move and wants to stay in versus me, but I figured worth the risk, I'll go for it. And he does turn out to be Booster Energy, throw off the Leech Seed. I just want to whittle him down a little bit because I have priority on Lucario and on this. So if I can get him below like 60%, the combination of priority I have will be able to take him out, even if he agility's up or something like that. So just need to whittle him down a little bit. I'm going to bring in Roaring Moon here. I know it's risky, but I don't think he's going for, like, I think he's just going for a Fire move. I don't think he would risk going for anything else. I don't need HP on Roaring Moon, and I predict correctly. And I am just, because he doesn't know what I'm going for, I'm just going to go for a U-turn here again. 17% is consistent with the fact that this is not this is not a defensive Dondozo. So I was able to force out the Iron Moth. That's great. Booster energy's burned up. Very happy about that. And it's down to 76% already. I'm feeling pretty good about my current position. I'm going to bring in Screamtail. I know if this thing tries to set up, I have Encore on Screamtail. It'll be able to deal with it. He goes to the Farigiraf. My fear was he would go hard into the Iron Moth, so that's why I threw off a Thunder Wave. But really, anything on his team, I didn't think he'd be going into Great Tusk, so I felt good about that. Farigiraf comes in. Not super scared of this, just going to see what he's going to do. I'll throw up a Wish here, Encore him into that Reflect. This thing is kind of neutralized, so I'm going to try throwing off another Thunder Wave, and I managed to catch the Gardevoir. Very happy about that. I did risk him potentially tricking here, which was a concern, but I didn't really feel comfortable switching into anything else. And you can see that that's kind of what I end up doing. And then here, now since I have the Wish up, and if he's locked in, he's going for that. If he's not locked in, I don't really care if he tries to, like, All Mind or anything. I'll work around it. So I'm just going to go for the Dazzling Gleam, and I'm able to 2-hit KO the Great Tusk here. Not something I was expecting to be able to be in a position to do. So, yeah. Iron Moth comes in. This is very scary. I considered for a minute terrestrializing into a Steel type to take the Sludge Wave and then Thunder Wave it, but I still thought it might be a little bit too early. I didn't want to risk him making a good prediction and try to go into Lucario, so I figured Sandy Shocks is faster because... Oh no, I did go into Lucario. Okay, never mind, I forgot about that. Went for the Dazzling Gleam. Good prediction, I think. Good prediction on his part. Played really aggressive with Lucario here. Managed to come out on top there. I'm just going to go hard for the Meteor Mash because we've seen that does great things for me trying to Meteor Mash fairies in the past. But managed to catch Dragonite, break the multi-scale, very happy about that. Based on the way he played it before, the fact that he just switched out when I had my Ghost type in, I really do think he's kind of the bog standard Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, Earthquake, another move, probably not Ice Spinner, Dragonite. So I think I can go into Brambleghast pretty safely here. Plus he's already used his Terra, so I know he can't Terra into a normal type and sweep my team. So I do go into the Brambleghast here. He does go for the Dragon Dance. I'm just going to try to get up a Leech Seed and kind of hang out here. But he goes back into the Iron Moth. Now I make that play I talked about where I go into the Sandy Shocks. Fire Dance does a pretty good amount of damage, but... Oh, and here, Thunderbolt would have KO'd, but I didn't think he was going to stay in. I didn't want to give up momentum. So that's why I Volt Switched here. And then also, even if he does stay in, as long as I can live one move with another Pokemon, then he'll die to the Leech Seed Dragon. So I'm going to go into Screamtail because I'm fairly certain he's not going for a Poison move versus a Ground type. I was willing to risk it there and get the Leftovers recovery and that Leech Seed recovery, and Iron Moth's down. His two big hitters are off the field very early, so I'm happy about that. Gardevoir comes out. Now I'm concerned about the trick. That's why I make this play here. Ended up calling it right. Now, I don't have the sound effect queued up, but this could potentially be a teachable moment. If a Pokemon tricks a choice item, and they get a new choice item back, it resets their choice. They're not choice locked now. If you protect and they don't get the choice item, then they're locked into trick and they have to go for it again. But in this case, since he traded a choice item for a choice item, Scarf for Scarf here, he is going to get to pick another move. So I didn't want him, so I was concerned about that. I didn't really want to go for Thunderbolts here because I didn't want to be locked in and give Dragonite an opportunity to set up. So I did decide, okay, at this point, Screamtail, I think, can deal with a Choice Scarf if need be. Paralyzed there. I'm going to go back into Sandy Shocks again, because I think he's going to try to trick. We'll be at the same point, but, you know, we'll at least I've learned what his reaction would be, which is apparently staying in and going back. Goes for the Healing Wish. Not something I had anticipated. And I know he's going to bring in his... I mean, he could have brought in his Farigiraf if he's really worried about that paralysis. But I know he's going to bring in the Dragonite. And that's why I saved my Terra, because I'm Terra Ice. Based on my calcs, I had a slim chance to KO through multi-scale here, but you know, just got to get the damage off. I told you I have plenty of priority in the back here, and I'm Scarf, so I'm able to 2-hit KO him with a Terra Blast. At this point, I'm feeling perfectly safe. I'm just gonna try to. Do I try to Leech Seed this? What do I do? Yeah, I did try to Leech Seed. Okay, and then we have this whole business. But Screamtail having Encore is gonna be able to shut down these 2 status users, and then I went for some safe plays at the end here, encoring him in Substitute. And I'm just gonna skip ahead a couple of turns because just a lot of me failing to break the sub with Dazzling Gleam. I really like Screamtail. Big drawback is how massively passive it is. Look at that. It takes 2 Dazzling Gleams to break a Dondozo sub. This is not even HP invested Dondozo as far as my calcs were telling. That's a big problem. But I could probably sit here forever and Encore and Dazzling Gleam until he either runs out of substitutes or runs out of HP. But I'm not going to do that. I think I finally figure out the smart thing to do on this turn is Encore him so he's trapped. Very safe to go into Volcarona, and since it has Bug Buzz, sound-based moves go through the substitute, able to KO him beyond all that, and finish off this Dondozo, and then I'm able to finish off this Farigiraf. 2 hits here, goes for the light screen, not enough. I was a little bit worried about a Thunder Wave that would have been annoying to have to deal with, but still would have been in a good spot. So that's that. I came away with a 6-0 in a matchup that I was fully prepared to lose. I feel like I played really well in this, and also I had really good prep. I made a mock team of Darrens. Of like, okay, I just want to see how the team plays. I made a team of 6 Pokemon. It was these exact 6 Pokemon, so I really lucked out with that. But that's all for this match. We'll move on to our next one. So, on to this match, we've got Mike in the Washington Commanders versus Mitch in the Michigan Mudsdales. You know, the fact that his name is McNutty and there's the alliteration, it's the thing that best helps me remember his team name and everything. But let's look at this. So, he brought a lot of sun here, but we'll get into why that's a little bit of a problem a few turns in. So we've got the Tatsugiri versus Golden Go lead. Tatsugiri doesn't have a lot to do here, so I think that's why he was fine just kind of staying and taking the Shadow Ball. He also learns a little bit about it, or about the Golden Go set. He can see if it's specs or whatever, and he can at least get some info out of it. Goes hard into the Clodsire. The Spadef drop is kind of a bummer for him. Image plays really well here and goes for the Terra Flying so that way he doesn't take the Earthquake, gets a lot of extra damage off. It's a really good play here. I don't really get the Poison Jab play there because you had to know you weren't going to KO and you're just letting Clodsire take extra damage from it. I think when that happened, he should have, like, after what happened in turn 3, he should have just done what he did in turn 5 right away, because I think that would have been a better use of his time. And also HP on Clodsire. So, goes hard into low kicks here. This is another, like, nitpicky critique I have of what Mike's doing here. I think with low kicks, he should have been, like, low kicks can KO with U-turn. But he goes for Leech Life. I don't think there's any real big reason to do that, because if he stays in, you still get the KO. The extra, you know, it would have been just about as much. It would have been probably 9% HP you get from that KO. I really don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to be able to keep up momentum and kind of dictate what your opponent's going to bring. Like, he brought in Torkoal. He could have hard U-turned on that turn and brought in, which I think we see him bring in Armarouge right here against the Torkoal. So he would have done 13% with that. This Armarouge is choice specs. I think he's modest in the sun. It actually has a chance at this amount of HP to OHKO the Torkoal with Armor Cannon. He could have kept rocks off of the field, which I think would have been big. That's what I would have liked to see done better, but Mitch is in a bad spot here, because with choice specs Armarouge in the sun, Armor Cannon is going to do 75 min to any Pokemon that comes in. Quagsire, max HP Quagsire takes 75% on a low roll from that Armor Cannon. So something's gonna faint here. And he chooses it to be the Slitherwing, which I think is probably a good call. I don't think Slitherwing had that great of a matchup here, so I think it's worth it. Golden Go comes out, we should be able to outspeed. He does end up, getting the final 2-shot here on the Clodsire. That's pretty good. And then we see low kicks come out, and it goes for first impression, which again, not necessary. He would have been better off U-turning here, and then bringing in something to hit the Glamora. Probably the Corviknight to be able to try to defog, which again, he does, but he lets it get up a layer of spikes first, and then also, another layer of toxic spikes. Not that that matters too much, but he could have been a turn ahead. I think that's probably, if you're going to be running Bolt Turn, I don't think the way is to use attack, U-turn chip, especially if the attack and the chip, if they both accomplish the same thing, then why wouldn't you just want to also get the U-turn off? I don't know if any of that made sense. So Mitch does a good job of blocking the defog here, trying to keep those hazards up. He gets a lot of good damage on the Corviknight here, but not enough to fully take him out. This Corviknight's pretty low, and that's pretty bad, but he has a pretty decent matchup. Torkoal coming in is obviously his biggest threat, but Brute Bonnet can't really beat it 1v1 unless it just tries to spore it, but that will allow it to heal up. Glamora doesn't typically carry any coverage that would be able to KO Corviknight from this range, and Quagsire kind of a mixed bag whether or not it can. We'll kind of see that set later. Torkoal comes out, and Mitch makes the same play again where he goes into the Armorage. This time he catches a Flash Fire Overheat. This is guaranteed to kill anything left on the team. I think Glamora, even without the Flash Fire boost, was taking 80% from a Choice Spec Sun boosted Armor Cannon. So it's a clean OHKO even if it wasn't full. Same thing with Quagsire. Something's fainting on turn 16. And he lets it be the Torkoal, which is probably good because that means less Sun's gonna go up. He brings in Brute Bonnet, and Sucker Punch goes off. Good play there. Don't want to play dumb. Don't want to try to get cute and be like, oh, he's going to switch out or something. You got to take that KO there. So Mitch is kind of in a rough spot with some of these slower things, and he doesn't have a good way to KO Corviknight at this point. But the hazards are up. It's going to be... So that's going to be a little bit difficult for him. Goes into low kicks here. Again, this is where I would have just U-turned. Just U-turned. The first impression there was unnecessary. You could have just hard U-turned. You would have done a comparable amount, maybe about, let's say, 8% less to Quagsire, and then you could have just gone into your Corviknight and tried to defog. Sun's up, so even if you go, so yeah, you get the chip here, and then this is the exact same thing that happens. You could have done all that in a better order. Now, this is interesting that you see the Earthquake go off, which I think is a good call by Mitch, because it makes sense for the Corviknight to roost here, and if you catch it, I don't know that it KOs, because Quagsire is typically not invested, and this seems like a Fizz-Def Corviknight, but at least puts the pressure on it, right? Figuratively, not literally, because Corviknight pressure, not Quagsire. But he manages to defog there. It doesn't go for a water move, probably just because of the Sun, but we do find out later it's because he doesn't have one. You turn here into the Tatsugiri, go ahead and let it take that damage. It's a sack at that point. Good. So Jiminy Cricket comes in here, just going to start leeching off a little bit of damage. That's a good time to do that. And he's going to leech life again. Because right now he's in a bad spot, because it's like, I don't have a good way to kill this Quagsire. Then once these Stealth Rocks go up again, Mike realizes, wow, this Quagsire can literally not touch this Corviknight. He doesn't have to, and the Quagsire is slower, obviously. So he goes for the Earthquake there. Again, the right play to make, but because of, he can't really afford to roost, and also since this Quagsire can't do damage to him, he doesn't have any reason to roost, and, risk that Earthquake play, because got leftovers, he's going to be recovering 6% per turn. He ends up going for a Brave Bird on this next turn. I think it does 9% recoil damage to him. Then he's just going to get that, going to get a lot of that back just from the leftovers. Pretty good. Pretty good use of his time there. Glamora comes out, same sort of issue. He might have tried to risk a roost here, but Mitch gets caught on this switch here as the Brute Bomb comes. Now, Mitch is not really in a good spot, but I don't really understand what he does here because we see the substitute come out. A, block the spore because it's a substitute, but also Dragapult's poison. So that was like a hard read to catch the low kicks coming in on it. So, I don't know, kind of a good play, but also like a real risky play because I don't think that... I mean, I guess it makes sense, because you did show Sucker Punch. You'd think, okay, he's got a hard switch. But he gets caught with a substitute. So, yeah, really, sorry, I take back what I said, Mitch. This is a better play by Mike than it was a bad play by you. Just Mike kind of outplayed you here with the substitute. Something you don't usually see on a Spore set. And he goes for the Dragon Dance here, kind of unnecessary, because there's a Quagsire in the back that's helping against, and you're already faster, and he would have O-code Glamora at this point. So more spikes going up, irrelevant because we already have one poison, one thing's off the ground, and steel, and heavy duty boots, low kicks. But now the thing is just going to be try to get as much damage on this Quagsire as you can. I'm surprised we're seeing Quagsire go for like Earthquake and stuff here. Like you probably just want to recover off and let this thing die to its own poison. Because like I said, Quagsire's in a pretty good position in terms of the things that threaten it, because oh yeah, and Jimny's already toxic too, I forgot. So that Spore didn't make any sense. Never mind. It was only if you went hard into Corviknight that would have paid off. Anyways, back to this. Quagsire isn't like, yeah, sure, it can't kill the Corviknight, but I think that might have just been a knock over your king situation, because you didn't have any way to get past this Corviknight. Brute Bonnet comes out, and again, a good prediction here by Mitch. We see him do this before. Like, look, there's good close combat there on the Roost. Did 77%, so he's able to follow it up with another close combat KO here. But it's all for naught because low kicks can come in. Terra's bugged for no real reason other than just a stunt. We did the calc afterwards. If he's adamant that Terra bug first impression to a -2 defense, Brute Bonnet does minimum 400%. So that was fun. But really well played battle by Mitch. Well played battle by Mitch. I think he sacked the right things. This is a bad matchup for him. I don't think he played particularly badly. A couple of not great plays, but mostly I feel like it was a matchup thing. But really well played battle by Mike. You should probably turn up the tempo a little bit with those U-turns rather than just attack into U-turn, because you're losing turns. You're losing turns, you're losing momentum. But still, that secures him his 5th win on the season. Pretty good. Pretty good bounce back from last season also. So that's another thing. Moving on, we've got our marquee match of the week.
Marquee match of the week. Now we have a theme.
We've got Dakota taking on Zach. This really isn't for much of anything, but two well-decorated battlers in the ABL, and they're gonna get into it. Okay, so let's hop into this. I haven't rewatched this one in a little bit, so we got the choice band on Masquerade. We see that right away. Zach's not risking anything. He's gonna hard switch into Tinkaton, which takes very little damage. Ting Lu's gonna come out. This is obviously a pretty well telegraphed Earthquake. Rotom's gonna come out and block that. I think he's gonna go for like what, a Will-O-Wisp? Oh, the trick, right. So giving up the choice specs, getting an Expert Belt. Expert Belt seems kind of weird because Moonblast, Psychic, Energy Ball, I think, or Grass Move are the only things that are the only real coverage it gets, and I guess if you Terra'd. But Rotom, I don't think you needed the Expert Belt to hit this Rotom super hard. Donphan, same thing. You're only really using that Expert Belt to boost your grass moves, and I guess your what's it called? Your the word, guys. Thank you. The Moonblast on a Meowscarada, but Meowscarada also got Protean, so it's hard to hit it with the right type. So I don't really get the Expert Belt. I don't know where that calc comes into play. Now it's got Choice Spec, so it's doing even more damage, and that does a pretty good amount of damage to Tinkaton, honestly. Like, I'm surprised at how much that does. Ting Lu's gonna come in. I think he sets up rocks on this. No, knock off. Okay, yeah. Ting Lu not having leftovers is really big because that's how Ting Lu makes his money, baby. Consistent income, and by that I mean leftovers. Hydro Pump comes out here. Now we were screaming in the chat because we had seen a early draft of this Serena set. The original draft of it was max HP, Adamant, max attack, Terra Dark, and it had the move Fling and was holding an Iron Ball. If that was the set, which maybe we should have been able to tell from how little, like, the damage on this Hydro Pump and Volt Switch, he ended up being Assault Vest. We see it much later in the battle. But if that had ended up being the set, and he flung an Iron Ball at, and Terra Dark onto an incoming Skeledirge here, if he's not max HP, this clean KOs Skeledirge, which I think he was max defense too, so it wouldn't have KO'd, but it would have been like 70%. It would have been very, very cool. Unfortunate part about that set is you can't then follow up with the KO. You really just kind of like, you'd have to U-turn out or try to trop kick, and Skeledirge just ends up slacking off. But it would have been really cool. Would have been cool to see, but ultimately ineffective. Just saying. So the Tinglu's going to come out, obviously threaten with Earthquake here. Donphan's going to come in. This is a perfect opportunity for him to spin because he doesn't have a Ghost type to deal with. See this Rapid Spin do a pretty good amount of damage to Glade. Glade's got bad defenses, and Donphan's pretty strong. Good job by Zach to know that that was probably going to be a Leaf Blade or Leaf Blade coming out, not an Aqua Cutter. I wasn't worried about an Aqua Cutter, clearly. Going hard into Skeledirge, eating it up. Yeah, Garg should pretty much always be the switch into Skeledirge because it can't get statused. It resists the stab moves on both sides. So Skeledirge is countered pretty hard by Garg most of the time. Donphan's going to come in here. Oh, whoops, so he gets hit with Assault here on the switch in, gonna chip him down a little bit. I think this is where Garg really shines, where he's just able to slowly start to chip stuff down. Just countering that leftovers recovery and keeping him a little bit low. Ruination, doing a good amount of damage to the Rotom, obviously. But Dakota's not really able to keep up with this pace right now. And as you can see, he doesn't have anything off of the ground, so these Toxic Spikes are going to be doing a number. Because even if Serena does have Rapid Spin, I think it does, it's easily blocked by Skeledirge. Skeledirge can always come in, especially since it doesn't have Fling. Imagine? No point in Dakota setting up an Iron Defense here. He's got to switch out when the Rodent comes in. Would have been a better opportunity for him to fire off another Salt Cure there. I think this Serena's just going to U-turn. Dakota knows the Skeledirge is coming in. He's going to try to keep up momentum, like I talked about in the last one. If you know what's going to happen, like, no point to try to attack there and then U-turn, even if he outsped the Skeledirge. See, we see this Donphan slowly getting chipped down. Very slowly. Chipped down nonetheless. We see the Assault Vest get knocked there. We see Serena go down to Poison. So Muck gets the first kill of the game on turn 23. And spoiler alert, we're going to see those Toxic Spikes pay big dividends. Dakota has no way to remove them now unless Noivern is able to defog them away if it has it. But also he's not able to kill the Skeledirge now. He doesn't take the opportunity to attempt to defog, which makes me think he really doesn't have it. Garg's come in now. It doesn't resist the Torch Song because it Terra'd Flying. A little bit of an issue for him. See this Donphan, again, slowly get chipped down. The Garg is putting in the work. He's doing a good job here. Tinglu's Poison. It's going to be losing 12% per turn, and it's already oh, that was a great play. And it's already lost its leftovers. Endeavor coming out here is so awesome. I really love this. You don't see Endeavor enough, and when you see it on a sturdy Pokemon, like, you kind of expect to see that sometimes. That's kind of a classic thing. It probably has Ice Shard as its last move. Yeah, I think so. Or would you really not run Earthquake? I don't know. I think we might end up getting our answer here, but Endeavor is huge because that actually allows him to beat Garg 1v1 pretty well, and nothing else really can afford to come in and take this Endeavor. So this Tinglu is just going to have to go down this turn. Okay, there is the Earthquake. A lot of the times you'll see like Endeavor on a Sturdymon with Ice Shards, that way you can come in and pick up the KO. That's well-versed battlers will know that as the fear tactic. There's an old thing where a level 1 Rattata can beat pretty much any Pokemon that doesn't have priority. Because it comes in, clicks Endeavor, so the other Pokemon, the level 100 Pokemon's going to outspeed it, knock it down to its Focus Sash, that's the F. Doesn't click Endeavor, that's the E. Bring it down to 1 HP to match it. and then it's going to use quick attack. That's the A, F-E-A, attack. And then the R is retreat, I think. So that way, yeah, and then you can switch out after that. I think it's also, yeah, so that's the fear attack. Just a little Pokemon history for you. Not that it's relevant to anything that's going on. Noivern's going to come in. Should be able to pick up the KO on Donphan, but, you know, Zach's just going to go. That's the safe thing to do. I'm not too threatened by this Noivern. Poison Jab gets a crit and a poison. Again, doesn't really matter in the long term because I think Zach's in such a strong position, but, you know, you do hate to see it happen. Gonna U-turn out. That Noivern's good as dead sooner or later. Drain Punch eaten up by Gallade. But also this Muck's pretty much done his job now. He can let this go down to a Psycho Cut. Zach can come in with Meowscarada. Even if this is Scarf Gouge, pretty sure it is, it's gonna have to switch afterwards because it's gonna be faster than Meowscarada and it can't hit it while it's Dark type. So good U-turn by Zach there, very smart. Ark's gonna come in here. Lost its it got knocked off there. Donphan's faster, so we're gonna get to see another Endeavor here. It doesn't work on the Noivern because it's at a higher HP than the Donphan, but it is going to die to that poison that it incurred on the crit. Puts that in kind of a bad spot. Gallade will get the KO on here. Also gonna go down to Muck's poison. Like I said, those toxic spikes pay big dividends. Florges is just gonna fire off a Moonblast here. Did pretty good damage to the Tinkaton the first time. If he can live a Gigaton Hammer, which seems unlikely, which he's not even gonna try to, which I'm in favor of. Yeah, he would have been able to KO from that point, but not so much. Salt Cure is gonna come out, and since Tinkaton is a Steel type, do 25% damage. And it puts it down into range where even with leftovers, it's going to faint to the Salt Cure. So Garg does steal one more. And then even, Floor just gets a final KO here and dies to Muck's Toxic Spike yet again. So, this ended up being a 2-0. Honestly, this game was, you know, you just watched it. It wasn't as close as the score implies. Zach kind of set up the dominoes to, you know, die to poison, and just like, I just got to keep sacking things, and I can very safely win. Like, Skeledirge is still healthy at 83%. Meowscarada is still very healthy at 70%. Could have KO'd any of these weakened threats at that point in time. But Zach went with the safest possible win, and he got it here. Very well played. Now, let's go over and talk about the standing, okay? Actually, no, we do MVPs first, usually. MVP this week was Muck. 4 KOs. Not something you usually see Muck on this board here. I'm loving seeing different MVPs. By the way, Brett, we are going to have 2 weeks before the quarterfinal. If you could... I don't want to fuck with your doc. It'd make it look dumb. So if you could just put another 2 weeks in there, call it like opening round, like OR, and then last chance LC, that'd be cool. Season kill leaderboard. Florges did get a couple of KOs in that battle, so it is now tied with Iron Moth and Roaring Moon for 11 KOs. Iron Moth won't be getting any more here in the West, which we'll again touch on in a second. Mellybolt and Golden Go both at 7. Armarouge, Skeletor, and Slitherwing all at 7. Oh wait, these two are at 8. I said 7 a second ago. Gallade and Meowscarada both came to that battle. Both got KOs in that battle. I think they got KOs. Yeah, and both at 6. Season Death Leaders. Dondozo stood alone, but Iron Treads and Torkoal ended up joining it. Nobody came to 7 weeks and fainted 7 times, so that's something. And then, you know, we avoided Life Orb KOs all regular season. Well done to the West. No jingle. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I feel good about it, because I don't want to hear the jingle. The jingle means somebody made a bad decision, usually. Okay, let's head over to the standings. So, I can now underline this. Control U? It is Control U. Good for me. So Zach and I have locked up the first round bye. Zach obviously has the number 1 seed over here by a significant margin. I've got the number 2 seed. While Mike and I are both tied in terms of wins, I did beat him in the head-to-head matchup, so I own that tiebreaker. That's why I'm ahead of him there. So he gets the 3 seed. So all these teams we're tied at 3 wins, but Darren had the head-to-head wins over Michigan and London, but he dropped out. What was supposed to happen is these two were going to face winner would go to playoff, loser would face the winner of this game. So these 2 teams would have to win 2 games to go to playoffs. There's no real feasible way to make that happen in a fair way, because either we bump out Darren, and then Mitch gets elevated to the 4 seed, and then we bring in either Kalamazoo or Salem to fill in that 6 seed, which I don't really think is, like, they really haven't been playing for playoffs for the past 2 weeks because they were told they were out. Also, I just don't think, especially because their game ended up in a forfeit because Drew was unreachable. I just really think that it wouldn't really be fair to put them into the playoff hunt at that point. Didn't make sense to me. If you guys disagree with me, let me know. But I think this was, and so they do. So Mitch and Dakota both get a little bit of an easier shot to playoffs than they were supposed to have. But it is what it is. Or what do the French say? Que sera sera? C'est la vie, que sera sera? Something like that. I don't speak French. I don't know why I'm trying to do it now. So, opening round matchups for the East, we're only going to have one, and it's going to be Mitch versus Dakota. Could theoretically have this game, because that game is definitely happening, but we're going to wait just so everything lines up, okay? So, one match out of the East next week, Mitch versus Dakota. Looking forward to it. They haven't played since week 1. That was a game where Dakota threw away the win. He was in a great position, and he just decided that he didn't want to win it. And really crumbled. So we'll see if he can recover from that. Obviously no ad drops this week, but that wraps it up for us then. Thank you all for listening. Thank you to D24 Designs for a bunch of logos. Thank you to Brett for doing this doc. Thank you guys for a really good regular season. Looking forward to the postseason. We still got a long way to go till the end of this one. Start thinking about things, any feelings you have about an upcoming season. I know I've been pretty vocal about terrestrialization. I have some ideas for waiver claims that we might want to tweak. And obviously, tier changes is going to be another big thing. So keep that all in mind. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.